Sure, let me offer my prayers. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. The meaning of the prayer is, I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes. With the torch of knowledge, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, a quick recap of what we discussed in the last few sessions. We discussed about one major topic, worldview, how we are looking in the world with what perspective. And we concluded that the worldview should be through the eyes of God or through the Vedas. That is, we need to see our glasses. Before that, we should have the Vedas. I have a Bhagavad Gita. So the world should be like this. I'm seeing through the book. That's where we ended up. And also we had a discussion about the Mahamantra. What is the benefit of chanting? What is the prescribed method for this Kali Yuga? And if we live with the worldview of Bhagavad Gita, then we are aligned with God. That's what we discussed in our earlier sessions. Today's topic is, who is God? Does he care for me? Why should I care? So before going to see who is God, we will just reason ourselves, really God exists. There is different types of reasoning as such. If I can say, what is reasoning? Reasoning is the process of using our existing knowledge to draw a conclusion or make a predictions or construct explanations. So with our knowledge, we are thinking and trying to predict whether God exists or not. So there are multiple types. We just see two types here, forward reasoning and reverse reasoning. The forward reasoning is, we are concluding, yeah, God is there, God exists. And now we start to explain based on our assumption that God exists. And the second type of reasoning is reverse or backward reasoning. We will just look around our creation and then infer backward to do the analysis through the world and come to the conclusion whether God exists or not. We are not assuming as such God exists. We are just first inferring about what and all is there, then coming to a conclusion, yes, God exists. I can give an example as such, like whatever day it is, it's a long day or short day, a sunny day or rainy day, whatever it is, the sun is rising on time. By looking at that, wow, who sets an alarm clock for the sun? Then I'm thinking, yeah, might be some supernatural power exists to set an alarm for sun to rise on this correct time, and it is not forgetting to set even a day. So this is going on consistently. Based on that, I'm assuming God exists. You have any example as such with a backward or reverse reasoning? Just look around and you have any examples to showcase, yeah, due to this fact, I guess God exists. You can unmute yourself to say, or you can type it in the chat. You are on mute, Pradeep.
Oh, yeah. I heard in one of the lecture that Earth is rotating around the sun, rotating itself and revolving around the sun at 14 degrees from its center. So, and it follows the same 14 degree, like while it's revolving around the sun.
So that makes you to think, yes, some God exists.
Yeah, like the same thing, like as you mentioned, sun rising and sun setting. It's like whatever happens, that doesn't stop.
Going
So
on. Okay,
yeah, it's going on.
that's great.
And
Any
other
other
than that,
examples?
yeah.
Maybe Purvi, Neetu, Pooja,
Uh,
Ram
I think
Gopal.
I think something related to the moon, like Purnami, Amavasya, like every time it is going on
Mm-hmm.
very like in a very systematic order, as if there is some like mechanism in the cosmos taking care of it. So just like the sun, so the waxing and waning of the moon, for example.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing one. Anyone else? So you are as first, you are whoever is not saying they are in the forward reasoning that God exists assumption. So we are thinking the looking around the objects and we are going backward. Because of this, God exists. Okay. So before getting into the topic, let's see, there is a question. Different religions claim their God to be the real God. Sometimes certain people claims to be an incarnation of God. Some consider God as personal, others as impersonal. So the question is, who actually is God? So just as a broader view, instead of getting into much detail, like everybody's, we cannot say like only my God is the right God, others are not. We don't want to touch or say that others God are not exist, but it is putting us in a question. So who should I believe? Which God is more powerful? Or is the human being also saying I am a God? So really God has a form or not? So God has nowadays largely become an object of sentiment and blind faith. However, knowledge of God is a precise and profound science. Based on the divine science, let's address this question one by one. First, as science begins with the definition of object under study, let's begin with the definition of God. So the Vedanta Sutra gives a definition that agrees broadly with the conception of God in the world religions. All religions accept God is the source of everything. Just we were discussing about the sun. So I'm like in India itself, we have multiple languages. So we can name the sun in our own language, like Surya in Hindi, Suryan in Tamil. Pratik, what is sun in Telugu? You are on mute.
Suryudu. Yeah.
Suryadu. Okay.
Yeah.
So in Mexico, they call that as sol, S-O-L, and sun in English. Multiple language, they have their different name for sun. Because of I am calling that as Surya or Suryadu or sol, the sun is not changing. Sun is the only one source for the illumination or light, but we are naming how we know that. Similarly, like they call that as Allah, Jehovah, or Krishna, whatever with a different name. On a superficial reading, the Vedic text may seems to be polytheistic, thus making the Vedic god appear to be like the pagan gods whose worship the Semitic religions forbid. But a deep and guided study of Vedic scriptures reveal that through they contain multi-phased rituals for multi-level forms of worship, they are finally concluding that it is monotheist. That's why in Bhagavad Gita 10.32 verse, Krishna says, of all creations, I am the beginning, I am the end, also I am the middle. If we take the Bible, the Revelation says in 22.13 verse, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. So God is one and the same. We are referring it by multiple names. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna demonstrated his godhood by displaying to Arjuna his universal form, wherein everything and everyone exists in him. The planets, stars, universe, living beings, celestial, terrestrial, subterrestrial. If those who claim to be God cannot similarly display the feature, the source of everything, we can safely reject their claim. They are not God, or they are not Godhood as such, they are saying. And also, like, if God is the source of everything, then he must be the source of both form, endowed things, and formless things that we are seeing in this world. Say, I'm seeing the laptop, I'm seeing the sun, I cannot see the air. So to be their source, he must himself have these both aspects, right? The Vedic text explained with the sun, we are seeing the sun, but we can feel the light, and we cannot say that, oh, sun is only there far away, but I am seeing the light as well as I am feeling the heat. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he is all pervading. In three aspects he is there: as a Brahman effulgence, as a Bhagavan feature, that is the highest feature, and the middle one is the Paramatma feature. So God can be perceived in three ways. However you are perceiving, it's on you. Like, you are seeing the sun and you are saying, sun, that round thing is God, or the light I'm getting, or I'm feeling the heat. Is that the one person or in person? Okay, this is all together. I'm well and good, but did Krishna says anywhere that I am God, I am the supreme? So slowly we are getting into dissecting the Bhagavad Gita. If we are really so dedicated and confident that, yeah, I wanna read and understand Bhagavad Gita, have a notebook next to you, or in Bhagavad Gita itself, make notes as if we discuss. So you can, I'm assuring you, within 6 months, you can like know Bhagavad Gita with the practical examples as such. So it's nothing wrong to write it in Bhagavad Gita. If we are doing college or at work also, if we go for any important sessions, we will used to take a notepad and scribble it, like whatever I'm hearing, to make notes. Remember, college and school, it is must to make notes. So when you write it, it will go inside you more. So let me share my screen. If you have Bhagavad Gita, please open it to the chapter 4, verse number 7. I'm sharing it if you can see it. So this is a very famous verse. We got to know knowingly, unknowingly, without memorizing, by the serials and movies we watched. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrajamyaham. Anybody would like to read the translation?
Yeah, I can read. Right.
Sure, go ahead.
Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of religion, at that time I descend myself.
Yeah, this is the time when Krishna appears. Wherever and whenever there is a fall in religiosity, the decline in religiosity principle, to establish the religious thing, Krishna descends himself. He is not saying, I take birth, he is descending himself. So to say, like, when Krishna appears, it is based on calculation. We say, in a day of Brahma, Krishna appears once. So what is the day of Brahma? If we take that calculation of Brahma, we know that from our limited knowledge, the timing differs between Earth, the time, the moon time. So if we go in the universe or the satellites, the timing might vary. But Srimad Bhagavatam give an wonderful explanation how minute or how the time differs. So if we calculate the age of 4 yugas, they have 4 manus. It's little complicated, but you might wonder on looking at the numbers. So Krishna descend to this planet once in a day of Brahma, or 8.64 billion solar years. So Brahma's 12-hour day is called Kalpa, and 12-hour night is called Pralaya. Both are of equal length, 12 hours, 12 hours. At the start of his day, he is reborn, create the planet, first living entity, and create all other living entities. At the end of his day, he and his creation are unmanifested, or we can say that as a partial dissolution. His 100-year is called a Mahakalpa, which is followed by a Mahapralaya, that is the full dissolution. So between this, Prakriti is manifesting at the start and unmanifesting at the end of Mahakalpa. Okay. So if we see 1 day of Brahma is 4.32 billion solar years, or we can say 100,000 Mahayugas or 14 Manvantaras. It's quite, we are going little complicated. I'm just showing a picture if you can see here. Again, this is what I said, life of Brahma, the creation and the full devastation. This time period is Kalpa, that is the day, and the night. So the 1 day worth is 8.64 billion solar years. So whoever is good in mathematics, calculate. 30 days of Brahma is 1 month. So 8.64 into 30, which is 259.2 billion solar years. That is just 1 month. Then calculate the 12 months. So 50 years is Parabda year of Brahma. 100 years, that is the lifespan of Brahma, which is equivalent to 311.04 trillion solar years. If I look at the numbers, I'm like, trillion, I cannot imagine how many zeros or how big the number would be, but that is the whole life of Brahma. Krishna appears in every 1 day of Brahma. So if we want to know about someone, what we will do, if I want to know about Pradeep a little more, or if I want to know about Purvi, what she likes, if she likes to paint, if she likes to play games, or she loves to cook, I cannot ask anyone. If I want to know about Purvi, I cannot ask Pradeep, hey, can you tell about Purvi? Or I cannot ask, or I cannot think by myself, oh, Purvi should like cooking, or Purvi should be liking, or she will be like this. No, it is best to ask the same person, hey, tell me about yourself. I want to know about you. So why we need to know about someone? Without knowing someone, how can we have trust with them? How can be a friend? How can we have that basic relationship with him? So there is a story. Anyone here knows about Gaur Gopal Das? He's a monk. He
Yeah.
is a famous social figure in
Yeah, I had his
celebrity.
lectures on the YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. So once he was traveling to US, he was sitting in a business class. So basically, he's a monk in saffron robes, but he was sitting in business class. So whoever Indians went in the flight saw this person, they was like, wow, he's wearing a saffron robe and he's sitting in business class. He should be not having much money. How come he got this much money to fly in a flight in business class. Everybody's attraction went on him. So everybody stopped by and noticed him, and they just gossip like, wow, who is it like that? And the same flight, this another guy, Salman Khan, was sitting there. So slowly, this attraction from Gaur Gopal Das moved on to Salman Khan. So next to Salman Khan, there were two foreigners girls sitting in the flight. They didn't know Salman Khan, so they didn't pay much attention or much attraction towards him. They were doing like their own duties of like reading a book, listening, watching a movie. So, but everybody, all other people who know about him stopped by and they were like, can I take a selfie like that? Once the flight landed, and everybody gathered Salman Khan, one selfie, one picture, please, one with family like that. These two girls were surprised. Oh, he was sitting next to me. Who is he? Everybody is approaching him. What's going on? So they went and asked one guy who took a selfie, who is that? Why are you taking a picture with him? So that guy said, his name is Salman Khan. He just told the name Salman Khan. These two girls Googled Salman Khan. It came as he is a Bollywood actor, blah, 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 in Wikipedia. They just read about this guy. And then they realized, wow, he is such a popular guy. I want to take a picture with him. So they both go, it's like they traveled together for hours. They didn't notice, even turn their head. But as soon as they heard the name, they read about him, they just went near him like, may I take a picture with you? So the reason for telling this story is as soon as they know about that guy, who he is, what is his name, then the attraction developed. Here, if we simply just know Krishna, we don't know who is he, what he likes, what he expects. We cannot develop that attraction as such from him. But Krishna himself tell about himself. Let's see that the Nama, Rupa, Guna and Leela, if we know about those, which means name, form, nature and pastimes of a person, we will, if we come to know, then we will develop that attractions. So this Bhagavad Gita is spoken 5,000 years ago in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So where Krishna is telling himself, like, I am so and so, who am I, what am I, everything. If we just take the Bhagavad Gita, 1 minute, I'm just sharing my screen. Are you able to see my screen? Okay. So this is the first section or introduction page of Bhagavad Gita. You can see total 18 chapters are there in Bhagavad Gita. So this is divided into 3 sections basically. The first 6 chapters, these first 6 are Karma Yoga. The next 6 chapters, this is called the Bhakti Yoga. The last 3, 13 to 18 is called Jnana Yoga. So it's like a box, jewel box, if you think of it. The top cover section is Karma Yoga. The bottom section is Jnana Yoga. You will keep your precious diamond jewel, your jewel in the middle. That is the middle section is the Bhakti Yoga. If you just look at the topics, knowledge of the absolute, you are going to know about who is that absolute. Attaining the supreme, chapter 8, how you will attain him. Next, the most confidential knowledge, to know about him, what he is expecting. Next, the opulence of the absolute, what he is. He is a wealthy person, just know more about him. Next come the universal form, as we discussed earlier. Krishna shows his universal form in him. everything manifesting in him. Next, the devotional service. Here, Krishna says about 36 qualities in a person. If a person has that 36 qualities, then Krishna is saying that one person is so dear to me. Next, this is the Jnana Yoga section. We will go and dissect each thing one by one. In this 7 to 12, Krishna saying about himself everything, as we discussed now. He says, who am I, what am I, everything. That is it. Only in Bhagavad Gita, it is this saying that Krishna is God, his features. No, in other Vedas, multiple places they have discussed. Before getting into the verse, I'll just give a short synopsis of wherever it is described who is Krishna. So in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Krishna is saying, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. He is saying, I am the source of everything and everything emanates from me. In 14th chapter, he is saying, Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtayak sambhavantiya tes tasam brahma matat yonir aham bija pratakpita. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material world, and I am the seed-giving father. So the same thing, I am the source of everything. He is telling, I am the seed-giving father. And again in 9.17, he is saying, Pitaham asya jagato mata data pitamahak. Vedyam pavitram omkara rit sama ejur evacha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. And he is the creator. As we know, we have creator, maintainer, and destroyer. Krishna is the origin of everything. In Bhagavad Gita 9.8, he says, Prakritim swam avastabhya vishrajami punah punah. Bhuta gramam imam krishnam avasam prakriter vasat. The whole cosmic order is under me, but my will it is manifested again and again, and my will it will annihilate at the end. And there are a lot of verses in Bhagavad Gita. He says, I am the creator. The next goes, I am the controller, maintainer. He is telling in 9th chapter, that is the devotional, the most confidential knowledge, the 19th verse, I give heat and I withhold and send forth the rain. Same in 10th chapter, he is telling, with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire cosmic. And also in 15th chapter, he says, I enter into each planet, by my energy they stay in orbit. And Krishna is omnipresent, meaning he present everywhere. He is telling that in the chapter 10, I am the super soul. I am seated in all hearts of all living entities. He is omnipotent, meaning he is the greatest. He is telling about that in 7th chapter. There is no truth beyond me. Everything rests upon me as a pearl strings are strung on a thread. If you say the thread is there, on top of it the pearls are threaded. He is omniscient, which means he knows the past, present, and future. He is giving evidence, or he is telling about this in chapter 7. That is, he's telling, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, that going to happen. I also know all living entities. And in Brahma Samhita, Brahma is offering the prayer to Krishna as Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. The Sarva Karana Karanam means he is the cause of all causes. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is confirmed as Etecham Sakalakvamsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. But many people get confused when it comes to God and the demigod. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Param Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, and there can never be any other controller equal to or greater than him. So how can we see it? Say if you take a company, the company has a CEO. So CEO cannot do everything by himself because he don't want to actually do it. It's not that he don't have the powers or he cannot do it, but for various degrees of power over different departments of universal management, there will be different managers. There will be like the finance will be handled to someone, the operation will be handled by someone. Underneath, there will be lot of other managers, workers will be there, right from the person who is cleaning the floor, cleaning the washroom, to the one who is developing. So there will be multiple manager, which doesn't mean that all the managers are the CEO of the company. There is only one CEO, but others are helping the CEO, or the CEO is giving direction, do this, do this, do this, and all others are doing that. Similarly, Krishna is all powerful. He controls everything. He's not directly connected with managing the affairs of material world. To ensure the affairs of the material world go on nicely, Krishna has appointed many managers for all the different departments that needs to be looked after in the material world. The Krishna's manager in the material world are called demigods. The demigods are all devotees of Krishna, but they still have some material attachment. Therefore, they are still trapped in the material world. However, because demigods are devotees, they got promoted to the higher planets in the universe, where they can live a very long life and enjoy a high standard of material sense gratification. So this, as we discussed, this Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, the entire Bhagavad Gita. In 7 to 12, Krishna reveals himself. Okay, fine. But I can understand God by my reasoning. As we discussed, there are two reasoning, like forward and backward. But with the limited knowledge, with the limited reasoning, our reasoning will be like a candle light. If a light is off, with the candle light, you cannot see the entire room. With the limited knowledge, we might have multiple questions unanswered. Here if before the Bhagavad Gita getting started, in the war zone, Arjuna was saying, I don't want to fight. In the first chapter, he will say, I will run to forest, I will beg and live as a sannyasi, I don't want to fight. That is his worldview. Duryodhana is telling, I cannot give even a single pinch of money from my wealth. I want to enjoy everything. So it's when Krishna goes to Duryodhana, asks for at least give 5 villages to Pandavas, he'll say like, it's everything is mine, I don't want to give anything. Krishna is saying both the views are wrong. So as we discussed, between 7 to 12, Krishna is giving everything, but we will take a little detour to see before going to the middle section. As the first verse we discussed is Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya. There Krishna says, when there is a fall in religion, decline in the religious practice, and a predominant rise of irreligion, he doesn't myself. Okay, he is telling when he will appear in this material world. Just go back a couple of verses earlier to see what he is saying. If you have Bhagavad Gita, you can open or you can see my screen, whichever is comfortable for you. So it's chapter 4 and verse number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vishvate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praham Manur Ikshvakshave Bravit. translation is. Anybody wanna read the translation?
Yeah, Mataji, I can read.
Sure.
The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshwaku.
So, as we see here, Krishna is telling this imperishable science of yoga, that is Bhagavad Gita, he already told it to Vivaswan. Vivaswan is the sun god's name. From Vivaswan, it descended to Manu, that Manu is the father of mankind. From Manu, it went to Ikshwaku, instructed to Ikshwaku. Now, who is Ikshwaku? Any guess? Or anyone know who is Ikshwaku? Or who descended in Ikshwaku dynasty? King Ram appeared in Ikshwaku dynasty. And there is a term called imperishable science of yoga. What do you understand by the word yoga? Nowadays, even wherever you walk, you can see a lot of yoga boards.
I saw a video, I think, there, where it's different yoga is kind of a union. That's what the actual meaning.
But if you go to here in any yoga studios, they won't teach you about that, right?
Yeah, here and all, like, no, there's a misconception that we think yoga is stretching the body, but it's like the term is much more than that for the yoga. Yeah,
that's right.
It's basically uniting our body with the soul. That's what I think the actual meaning of.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the union.
So
yeah.
So the union, how you can connect with God, that is the term yoga. But we are taking just one of it and thinking that that is to be the yoga, which is the asanas. The yoga means to link one's consciousness with the supreme absolute truth. Here, that's where Krishna is telling karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga. Here, Srila Prabhupada give this translation or the definition for 3 sections is when the linking process predominantly in fruitive activities, that is karma yoga. The linking process with the supreme predominantly empirical, then that is jnana yoga. The linking process predominantly in devotional service, that is bhakti yoga. But bhakti is the topmost. Krishna is saying in chapter 6, 46th verse, Tapa Vishwabhyo Diko Yogi, Jnanibhyopi Matodikaha. So yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruity worker. So in all circumstances, be a yogi. So here, if you look into this verse, it's not directly given to one. In order to understand the God, we have to refer to the oldest text in the world, the Vedas. That Vedic text are the oldest spiritual scriptures in the entire world, and they are historically, linguistically, philosophically, they are proved. And this Vedic knowledge was transmitted through chain of disciplic succession down through the generation, and it was finally penned down in 5,000 years ago by Srila Vyasadeva. Before that, it was not in a booklet form. It just over hearing, it went down. This knowledge has continued to be transmitted through the disciplic succession. That is what Vivaswan to Manu, Manu to Ikshwaku dynasty. The knowledge is transmitted in this disciplic succession and available even today as a benediction to all the sincere seekers of truth. One very important thing to note here is the knowledge can only be found as it is in a bona fide disciplic succession, not everywhere. We'll move on to the next verse. 4.2. एवं परंपरा प्राप्तम् इमां राजर्षयो विदुः सकालनेह महता योगनास्तः परन्तपा. Anybody want to recite the translation?
Yeah, sure, I can do it. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the scientific kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost.
Yeah. So as we discussed, this bona fide knowledge should come through a bona fide disciplic succession. Why it seems to be lost? That's our question, right? It is coming in this order, the disciplic succession. When it got lost, because it is lost, Krishna is reviving or telling it again. When the original purpose of the Gita was scattered by the motives of unscrupulous commentators and unauthorized interpretation, there arose the need of re-establishing the bona fide disciplic succession. That's the reason Krishna is speaking this Bhagavad Gita again 5,000 years back. So as we discussed about this yoga, the very famous yoga is Ramdev Baba's yoga. There were many centers, but they will just tell about different asanas. If you do this, the body change here, change that, that is called yoga, but they can't explain wholly what is the actual definition for yoga even. The proper or correct definition of yoga is present in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. But what we are learning is just the asanas. If you take just the asanas, it is the 8 limbs of yoga are there. It's Ashtanga Yoga. So how the steps will go is simply by altering or changing the body. It is not for weight control or the flexibility of the body. We are currently doing is mainly for our goodness for organ, goodness for health, or to reduce weight. But the main importance of yoga is there are 8 limbs. It's like yama, niyama, asana, like that. It's do's. We should practice the do's, practice the don'ts, then practice the bodily asanas, then breathe control, the pranayama. Your body will be in your control. With asanas, you will be flexible to sit or bend your body, then meditate on God. In the earlier yugas, they used to meditate to achieve the God, to align or go back to God. At the time when you want to meditate, you want to sit in a place for a long time. At that time, your body should be flexible enough. So to make your body flexible in terms of attaining the God, the asanas came into picture. But now the definition is totally misunderstood. And even I heard about some dog yoga. There are so many crazy yogas are there nowadays. Like when, say, if I'm having a dog, I cannot leave my dog anywhere. I can take my dog when I'm going for yoga. So I will do yoga in this studio and my dog will do yoga in another studio. It was a popular hit in US. Anyone else knows about any varieties of dog? This yoga, like dog yoga, any other examples you guys heard of? I'm sorry, yes, I told it would be a interactive session. Please come up. Or you are just seeing the asanas wherever yoga studios. Okay. Let's proceed. Krishna is telling that this is got broken. That's why we are here to re-establish that. And in the 4.3 verse, Sayevayam maya tedya yoga prokta purantanaha bhaktosi me shaka cheti rahasyam hi etat uttamam. So translation, that very ancient science of relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of science. So he is giving this is a transcendental mystery and it is given to Arjuna because he is a friend and a devotee. The qualification to be a recipient of a spiritual science is to be a devotee of the God. Why as such? The demons cannot understand that, or even they won't take time to read it. Even if they read, they cannot understand what is in it, what it is trying to say. So moving on to the next verse. Arjuna Vacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vishvashitaha Katam Etad Vijaniyam Tvam Madhav Proktavaniti. Anybody would like to read? Okay. Arjuna said, the sun god Vishvaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? So this question of Arjuna is very valid, right? Arjuna and Krishna are cousin. It's like, I know you. You are of my age. Krishna was around 125 years when he was in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna might be around that age. So Arjuna is questioning, like, how are you saying that you told this to Vivaswan? He is very senior. I'm confused. How is it possible? Arjuna, being a pure devotee, he understood what is the reason behind it. That's why Krishna says in the earlier verse, you're my devotee and a friend. So that's the reason I'm telling it to you. So Arjuna is just questioning so that Krishna will reveal himself for the benefit of us. Like we are not like Arjuna, we don't have that understanding power. So to keep that beneficial for all others, Arjuna asked that question, how can I understand? So Krishna is giving here the answer to that. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatittani janmani tava charjuna tani aham veda sarvani na tvam veda parantapa. He's telling many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of enemy. So here, as I said, Krishna was 125 years old, but he still looks like a young man. His body doesn't change, and he is giving a little characteristic of himself, the soul and the super soul. Soul and super soul never dies, but the thing is, soul forget things, but super soul remember that. Krishna remembers everything, but Arjuna forget that. Moving on to the next verse. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanamishwaropi san prakritim swamadistaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Here again, he is giving a little more detail about his appearance. He is Aja, unborn. His body is transcendental body. It never undergo the 6 bodily changes. which all the human beings or living entities undergo. And he is the Lord of living entities, and still he appears every millennium in his original transcendental form, in his personal form, for a particular reason. So that's where we started this verse, why he descend here to when the irreligiosity is predominant. That time Krishna appears to decline. Whenever the religious practice decline, he will descend to the world. So he is giving a little bit of his characteristic. The entire characteristics will be given in the middle 6th chapter, that is 7 to 12. But he is giving a little like, I am unborn, I remember everything. We both born every time, but I remember, you don't remember. Next verse is 4.8. Paritranaya sadhuna vinasaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Anybody would like to read the translation?
Yeah, I will read. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium.
So Krishna is giving 3 reasons to deliver the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, and to re-establish the principles of religion. He appears millennium after millennium. He's giving his characteristics. He's telling when he will appear, and if he appear, what are his duties. So just a glimpse of who is God we discussed today, and also why he appeared, when he appeared, if he appeared, what is his duties. That's what in the first 8 verse. Okay, he appears. Then in 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyatva deha punav janma naiti mamyeti so Arjuna. This is a very famous verse. Krishna himself saying, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving their body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Okay, so Krishna is telling about himself. What is it beneficial for me? Why I know about him? He is giving this to us, like, if you know about my nature, then when you leave the body, you won't take birth in this material world again. When you reach the eternal abode, then they won't come back here. That means you will be out of the birth, death, life cycle. So we just discussed about who is God with a different viewpoint and based on different reasoning. So the homework, or I can say, if you guys has some time, you can put forth, you can read the chapter 1, like chapter 4 verse 1 to 9's purports very carefully. We just read the translations here, but if you read the purport, that will give you an understanding of what we discussed a little more in detail. And if you have any questions, we can discuss now. If you can just take out from today's discussion what and all we discussed. Yes, God is there based on the reasoning, and I can able to figure out who is God, the differences in sun, and I said like it's a Brahman effulgence, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. God exists in these 3 features. God is the source of everything. We saw different verses as a proof that God is the source of everything and he is the supreme controller, maintainer. We discussed about the company CEO and the managers, the department heads, compared to God and demigod. That differentiation we discussed. And also we discussed when Krishna appeared based on one day of Brahma. So we saw a chart to look into the lifetime of Brahma, that solar year calculation, this trillion years life cycle of Brahma. Then we discussed about a story about Salman Khan, how attraction develops based on revelation or the knowledge about someone that triggers the attraction mode. That's where Krishna's Anama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, or name, form, nature, and pastimes are divine. We want to know that. Then we discussed about chapter 4, verse 1 to 9, where Krishna himself is telling about a glimpse of his characteristics, why he appeared, when he appeared, what he will do, what we will get if we know about his transcendental nature. And then we discussed about a superficial or higher level details about 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So I said in the 18th chapter, the first 6 are Karma Yoga, the last 6, that is 13 to 18, are Jnana Yoga. So the precious jewel Bhakti Yoga is in between 7 to 12, where Krishna is explaining about himself in detail. But he took a detour in 4th chapter to just tell why based on Arjuna's question. And then the entire topic moved towards Karma Yoga. And then he explains the precious jewel about himself, his opulences, everything in the middle chapters, that is 7 to 12. We will discuss that in a slow pace. Then we discussed what is yoga, the 3 section karma, jnana, and bhakti, based on predominant feature. That is fruitive activities is karma, predominant empirical thing is jnana, predominant devotional services bhakti. So why this knowledge was lost, why Krishna is telling it again to Arjuna, we discussed about that. And we saw the importance of disciplic succession and authorized interpretation. We discussed on the Ashtanga Yoga, the limbs of yoga, and where it got confused. And the couple of features like God is Aja, unborn, his body never deteriorates, he looks young, and he remembers everything, the soul forgets everything. So if you have some time, read this verse 1 to 9 and make a notes of it. If you have any questions, you can message in the group or message individually, or we can discuss it in the next class. So anyone thought that when we took the Bhagavad Gita, reading the first few verses, it is too much, I cannot understand or I cannot read, it is overwhelming to read, or everybody are comfortable to start with? Have you started reading? If you have this book, you can always take it from database, but copy is also better. If you have the book, please start reading it. If you don't have the book, if you are in Jersey City, let us know, we will stop by and give you the book. And if you are far away, we can order it in Amazon. Any questions? Or we can end here.
I haven't started yet, but I'm planning to start soon, hopefully.
Sure.
Reading it. Yeah.
You can, if it is overwhelming, you can start by reading the translation. And the purpose is definitely very helpful, that it will give you a complete picture in the chunks, that where we can understand it more. Srila Prabhupada explained it very nicely in chunks, so we can observe and take things down. So
Okay, sure.
when
Yeah.
I started reading Bhagavad Gita, I just looked at the Sanskrit verses. I even couldn't pronounce that. So a couple
Yeah.
of times I took it,
So
I
is it
tried.
is it okay if you directly read the transition without reading the Sanskrit verses, or
Yeah.
because I don't know Sanskrit? It's is it,
So
or you can
that
just
was
read it.
my problem too. Like I took
Yeah.
multiple times. It's too
Okay.
much. I couldn't. I don't know Hindi. So I was like, no, maybe if it's for Hindi folks, it would be easier for them. Then I started by reading the translations. Then my fear, I come out of the fear zone. Like I don't know this. The translation was little high for me by reading it. I'm reading English. I got that, but what is it? I couldn't understand. But Srila Prabhupada purport gives a detailed
Oh,
explanation where I can able to observe, okay, this translation means this. Okay, now I
that
got it.
purport will be part of the Bhagavad Gita book by written by
Yeah,
Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it will be.
Sure. Okay. That
So
will help.
each verse has his own purport. Prabhupada gave it, and even he gave it to the word by word meaning of the Sanskrit verse. So if we just take that Sanskrit and English meaning, then it's just like, oh, this is nice. I can then slowly as like first I read the translation and purport. The next time I started with let me see the Sanskrit with English meaning. That gives an understanding. Now it's like, okay, Sanskrit is not a rocket science. With the help of Srila Prabhupada's book, we can able to understand it. So we can, if you are like me, taking the book and seeing the Sanskrit was, wow, this is something which is not for me. This is not my cup of tea. And just start with the translation. And like this week, we are giving you like requesting you to read the first 9 verse translation. It's much smaller. Maybe in half an hour time you can able to finish it. If you have a book, well and good. If you don't have, you can browse through vedabase.io. If you go there, the first book will be Bhagavad Gita. Click on it, choose the chapter 4, and there will be like just text. Click on the text to see the purport, the translation and purport. So give it a try. Let us know if you have any question. Can you please put the name in the chat? What name, Purvi?
Sure,
The
Mata.
book
Thank
name?
you. Yeah.
Sure, Pratik. Purvi, what name you wanna know?
I think the source Veda base.
Veda base, sure. I just sent you. Okay, thank you everyone. We'll discuss further. I will send the Veda base link in the WhatsApp group chat also. Thank you for joining. Have a good week ahead.
Thank you, Mataji, for your time.
Thank you. Hari Bol.
Very bold.